Internet! I am Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome back to The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Today we are covering chapters 74, 75, 76, and 77, so I hope you've read up to that point, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. Our section begins with Kavote and Denna setting up camp, because they want to sleep in the wilderness so that they can look out for the blue flames that they are kind of hunting down. And they are a very wonderful duo together. They put the camp together in such a way and so quickly because they know each other so well. Once the camp is put together, they're starting to fall asleep when Kavote starts hearing branches breaking. And he describes it in a way that he knows there's something wrong because it's actual branches tearing from trees and not just little twigs being stepped on. So he knows it's something big. And he and Denna actually crawl up this giant stone face. And he gets a little hurt, a little scuffed up on the way up, but in general he's fine. And they look down the rock face to see what it was that was coming towards them. And it's a dragon. It's a freaking dragon. And that's awesome. The story pauses. And Kavote is actually sitting at the end and he's not saying anything. And he informs the chronicler that he's waiting for some kind of shock, some kind of question as to whether or not the seeing of the dragon is actually real. The chronicler explains that, well, I promised to tell this story and not ask any questions on whether or not any part of your story was real. So I'm just going to assume that you were telling the truth. Kavote moves on with his story then. And it goes right back to him and Denna looking over the rock face down at their campsite and seeing the dragon kind of wrap itself around their campfire. Both Denna and Kavote cannot blame it. It was a very cold night, and so they watch it wrap itself around the fire and kind of put it out with its body. The next day they wake up and they are looking over their injuries. Kavote has small bruising around the ribs because as he was being lifted up by Denna in a very kind of haphazard way, she actually grabbed onto his wrist and his hair and just pulled him up that way. He was slammed into the rock face, so he's a smidgen hurt that way. And Kavote is actually looking over the bruise that he saw Denna with when he first met her at Trabant. As they're looking over their injuries, they're looking out and they're noticing smoke off in the distance. And they're wondering if that's the same dragon that attack their campsite, and so they go towards the smoke, only to find the dragon had just ravaged a small village, and they're looking around at all of the buildings and the small wooden parts, how it's all just kind of crumbling in their hands. As they're looking around, they're noticing the sweet smell of sugar, and Denna notices these pots that have a sugary kind of block at the bottom of the pots. And she says, oh, they must be making, sweets or maple syrup or stuff like that. And she pulls out one of the tabs and starts chewing on it and says, ew, ew, this is bitter, this is gross, this is disgusting. All of a sudden, what this stuff is finally hits Kavote like a brick to the head, and he says, Denna, spit that out. Here, eat all this coal. I think you've eaten poison. And sure enough, what she has eaten is kind of like the high fantasy version of meth. And he's trying to get her to eat coal so that it soaks up all the poison so that she doesn't die. And at the end of the chapter, they're discussing how much money all of this poison could be. And they start gathering it up, thinking that they will sell it to reputable businesses like doctors, and the doctors will be able to use it for painkillers, and they'll have lots of money, and they're describing what they're going to buy with all that money. Today's question for you is, when was the last time that you told a story or told a fact that you hoped would elicit shock, but instead elicited Nothing. Much like the chronicler did to Cabot. Yesterday's question was, when was the last time that you approached someone that had an accent so thick that you could not understand them? And I'll be honest, I was just getting out of Iraq, and I decided to visit London, and I was going to get some ice cream. Unfortunately, the guy that was selling the ice cream had such a thick accent that I couldn't understand him. And I was just saying, what? Huh? What? Huh? Huh? What? Like 5,000 times, because I could not understand a word that he was saying. Eventually, I just had to kind of point to what I wanted, and as a way of an apology, I made up a lie. I told him that I had just gotten out of Iraq, but I also told him that something exploded really close to my ear and I couldn't hear him, because I didn't want to offend him in his thick accent. I'm a horrible person. I know. Do not forget that the next book that I will be reading is Soccer Blue by Christopher Miller. Go out and grab it by any legal means necessary. Buy it at a bookstore, borrow it from a friend, borrow it from the library, buy it on a Kindle. I don't care what you do as long as it's legal. I also suggest that you get the print version, as it comes with blue printing and full color photographs of the paintings that he's talking about. Seriously, guys, it's kind of amazing. I have been the Purple-Haired Doofus, reminding you to watch your Progeneratus, and I will see you all in the next chapters of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Toodles!